Hello and welcome to Georgia Sight's online shuttle tatting class. Today I want to show you how to use a picot gauge, okay? And we're going to do this pattern somewhat. We're not going to do the complete pattern, but I'm going to show you how to use picot gauges, okay? First of all, I have this one that I made, okay? You see it's got the measurements on it, da-da-da-da-da. The other side is a card that I got somewhere, I have no idea. But it makes a great picot gauge. And I measured it off, labeled it, and cut it off. Okay? Now you can do that. Or you can go to Handy Hands and they have this type of a picot gauge. They have the colored ones which are thicker, just a little thicker, which means your picots are going to be a little bigger. Then they have the black one. The black one is a lot thinner than this, but it's only for right-handed tatters. This one here, because there's writing on both sides, is for both right and left-handed tatters. Up here at the top, these holes are for needle tatters to measure your needles. Okay? And it's all marked off. You've got your picot sizes and the length here. Most patterns will be about this width, okay, on the motifs. Now you have doilies that are going to be a lot bigger than this, but this gives you a gauge to use on measurements, okay? So let's get on with it. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to use just a right-handed, basic, handmade tatting picot gauge, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to make this ring. Now this pattern here, according to This and Tat, is 5 double stitches separated by 7 picots. Okay, you can count your picots off and you'll count 7. This right here is our chain coming in. Well, currently we don't have a chain. We're just going to do the ring. Okay, and we're not going to do the full 7 picots. I'm just going to show you how to use these picot gauges. Okay, so let's get started. Let's put in our first 5 double stitches. Okay, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we've got our first 5 double stitches. Now we want to open this ring up just a little on our hand, give us some breathing room for our fingers. And what I like to do, okay, this is a little trick that I've learned over the tatting experience I've had. When you pull your thread back like this to open this ring up, sometimes some threads will fold this last double stitch and pull it in and make it a little tight. Well, then the next stitch that comes up beside it is higher, okay? So what I do is I take my thread and pull it just a little that way, loosen it up, okay, and bring that stitch back out where it was, okay? That way it doesn't look like it's off. Now there is 2 ways you can use this picot gauge. You can use it this way, okay, or you can use it this way, whichever way is comfortable for you. Okay, the picot gauge is inserted between the working thread, which is this thread, and your shuttle thread. Okay, and you're going to create a gap of thread between your double stitches. So we're going to put this picot gauge in right here. As you can see, my shuttle thread is on top, my working thread is on the bottom. Okay, and you do your first double stitch. Okay, now some tatters keep the picot gauge in until they finish that next series, pull it out and move it on to the next picot. It's your preference. There's no rules. There's no tatting police to tell you how to do this. I'm just showing you how to use the picot gauge. Okay, now we've got our picot in and we've got our first double stitch after the picot. Remove the picot and pull that double stitch up taut with the other ones. Okay, excuse me. When you're doing your picots, the last stitch which is the 5th stitch of this count, is to the left of the picot. The picot is the bare thread. The first stitch of your next series of 5 is on the right side of that picot. Okay, now the next gauge we're going to use is going to be the handy hand, so you can see the difference. Okay, so we need 4 more double stitches to complete this series of 5. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, we're going to need more thread. What I'm using today is Aunt Lydia's Crochet Cotton size 10. It's a little thicker than the Elizabeth, so you tend to have to open your ring more often. Okay, now I pulled my thread back like this to straighten that stitch up. Okay, and you can manipulate it. All right, now we're going to use the handy hands. Now for lefties, if you were left-handed and you were using this tatting gauge in the left hand, you would use it like this. For lefties, your left hand's going to be doing with the shuttle, your loom's going to be on your right hand. This is the way you would use it. If it's more comfortable, you can use it this way. It's whatever is comfortable to you. Okay, just make sure until you get the practice of picots done and down to an art, use a picot gauge, because you will find in doing patterns, if your picots are not even throughout, especially your joining picots, your pattern is going to buckle up or pull in. Okay, so remember that. All right, now we're going to use the gauge here. All right, same deal. The working thread goes on the bottom side. The shuttle thread goes over the top. Make our first double stitch. Okay, pull that picot gauge out. Close up that picot. You see? And there is a difference between the two picots in size, even though the width on these are the same on both picot gauges. Okay, so it's because the handy hands is a little thicker. All right, now we're going to do just a regular picot by gauge. Okay, we're going to try to gauge it to match that picot. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 double stitches. We're going to need 1 more. Need more thread. Hold that thread, pull that loop open, pull it back just a little to straighten that last stitch back out. Okay, now as you progress in your tatting experience, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be able to feel on your index finger and your thumb the size of that picot. Okay, because muscle memory in tatting is the kicker. When you train these 2 fingers, feel, and it takes about a year, you'll be able to judge the size of that picot. You're going to know when your stitches are right. You're not even going to have to watch what you're doing. Okay, but it takes about a year to get these 2 pads trained. Okay, so the ones that can do it right off the bat, I praise you. I really do. I am not one of those people. I use a picot gauge. Alright, so we're going to just eyeball judge that picot's going to be about the same size as that one. Maybe we'll get lucky and it will be. And we're close. Okay, and we want to put in 4 more double stitches, and then we're going to close this ring. That's 3, 4, and 5. Now, I'm going to show you something else too while I'm thinking about it. Another little added trick. When you've stretched your ring out, okay, and as you tat, the ring gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Pull a finger out. See? And then it's going to get smaller, smaller. Pull a finger out. Okay? That's a way to control the pull, to keep the ring bigger. Okay? Another thing, you'll get rings that are huge. You can wrap this thread, this bottom half of your thread right here, around that pinky finger several times and pull from there before. Okay, so just little tidbits of information that will come in handy in the future. All right, now the last thing I'm going to do before I close this ring is I'm going to do what they call posting my shuttle. What that does is it puts that shuttle through the ring and makes that shuttle thread come out the back side. It makes your rings close a lot nicer, and they don't tend to roll on the end, because until you get your tension right, you're going to have a problem with a roll. That last stitch is going to want to roll under, and this helps prevent it if you post your shuttle. Okay, and there you have it. You have a ring that is 3 picots separated by 5 double stitches, or 5 double stitches separated by 3 picots. It's all in how it's worded. Okay, so I hope that helps you to understand the picot and the picot gauge. Now, like I said in the previous video, if this picot here had 2 dashes, you would step up 1 level on that picot gauge. If you're making picots that are this size and you've got a 2 dash picot coming up, step up to the next size, unless they specifically state what size picot to use. I've seen some patterns that do. I have seen a lot more that don't. It's your own taste, unless the pattern says you need a 1/2 inch picot. Then do a 1/2 inch picot. Okay? And it's because that's the way the pattern's written. That's the way the designer wants it to look. Okay? So on that note, I hope you learned how to use a picot gauge and how to make your first ring with picots. So until next time, happy tatting and have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.